Now that we have looked at the origins of Thra from the Dark Crystal in-universe perspective, let's look at how it came to be from the storytelling side. This will also lead us to reveal that one of the Fathom Events movie trivia slides was wrong. Gasp, 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 gasp.
Stumbled upon a great world to learn and know. Passing time.
Howdy y'all, and welcome to the Dark Crystal Conjunction, your YouTube space to nerd out about all things the Dark Crystal. Let's start off by looking at another one of the movie trivia slides from the Fathom Events 4K release in theaters from last month. This one reads, quote, "The name of the Dark Crystal's world, Thra, was a shortened form of the title of Jim's very first treatment for the film, written in 1977, Mithra. The name of the world isn't actually mentioned at all in the film. The first time the name Thra was publicized was in the book The World of the Dark Crystal by J.J. Llewellyn and Brian Froud." End quote. Wrong. Well, not all of it's wrong. There are multiple statements being made here, so let's first look at the wrong part. The first time we learn that the world that we see in the movie The Dark Crystal is called Thra isn't actually in the world of the Dark Crystal. I thought it was, but I looked it up. I even had some of the Facebook group, Dream Fasting, look it up to help me because I figured it was. I just assumed it was, but it's actually not. This was the first publication to release from the movie, but in it, Agra just refers to Thra as world, and then the Earthling, J.J. Llewellyn, if you will, commentary calls it the world of the Dark Crystal. So it actually is not referred to as Thra in this book, like the slide says. So where do we find it first being published? Well, that would be in the Dark Crystal novelization. And just for some more references, World of the Dark Crystal came out September 12th, 1982, and then a month later, the Dark Crystal novelization came out in October 1st of 1982, the film, of course, being released December of 1982 in America. So like we said, it's in the Dark Crystal novelization where it's first mentioned when describing the crystal chamber and talking about symbols there related to, quote, the 4 phases of the secret moon of Thra, end quote. And though Agra calls it world in the World of the Dark Crystal, she does indeed call it Thra. The first time it is mentioned by name from a character is in the scene where Jen is in Agra's observatory and is asking for a crystal shard. The book says, quote, "She peered into boxes and opened drawers, still talking. You want to know about the Great Conjunction? When it do come, you better be underground. No telling. End of world. Maybe. Or beginning. End. Beginning. All the same. Big change. Good. Bad. I don't know. Whole planet might burn up. End of Thra. End of Agra. Pfft. You too? Smoke rings. So? We all turn to smoke one day. No? Come from smoke too. Some say. Don't know. Might not be so bad. Smoke. Float around. In air. See world. Suddenly she laughed hysterically. Jen smiled out of politeness. End quote. I just love that extended dialogue from the novelization. It really shows more of that crazy side of Agra. Love it, love it. After that, it is mentioned a couple other times in descriptions of what happens to the planet of Thra. That's really the only time we see it named by a character. And so as far as I know, this is the first publication of it. So sadly, that slide wasn't 100% completely accurate. But the slide does say more. It does talk about Mithra was the original name of the planet that Jim Henson had his fantasy world set on, and what he and Brian Froud spent much time developing before they had a script for, even before it was titled The Dark Crystal. In Creation Myths Volume 2, screenwriter for The Dark Crystal reflects on working with Jim Henson in kind of an extra part of the comic book, and it is there that we learn about the name change Mithra to Thra. In the context, he talks about some of the challenges that they came upon when working on the screenplay. He writes, quote, "People also criticized the name Mithra for the world, saying it was too much like the ancient Persian god. So we altered it to Mithra for a while. Then Brian shortened it in his book to Thra," end quote. Now I have to assume that he's talking about Brian Froud because that's the Brian he talks about the whole time in here. Although Brian may have been the one who actually did shorten it, it doesn't appear in the actual World of the Dark Crystal like we said, but it does appear in a lot of the notes and things that you see the novelization using and whatnot. So on a technical matter, maybe it was Brian, but in the publicized version of what it actually first came out. It's a novelization. So there we have it. A little more movie trivia as well as fixing the movie trivia presented to us from Fathom. Since we already took a look at the Dark Crystal pitch booklet called The Crystal, next I think we'll take a look at the earlier treatment that's been referred to here and in past videos I've done, known as the Mithra treatment. So thanks for joining us today on the Dark Crystal Conjunction. Do all those YouTube things and don't forget,
there is much to be learned, and you have no time.
Stumbled upon a great world to learn and know. Passing time that came with glow, sensing the eerie melody within bones. From before the suns had even rose, bring life to beings from otherworldly themes.